So let's begin. So discipline here. Oh, you know what? I have something I'd like to share first before we talk about discipline. Oh, be prepared. It's discipline for parents. Be prepared. This is about conscious parenting, right? Can you get me over here so I want to make sure? You know what? I'm going to stand over here. No. Here we go. Making sure Paul is paying attention. All right. I just came from about maybe 35 minutes ago, Dragon Wall, Chinese restaurant, because that's where Jasmine wanted to go. Oh, you think I can put it here because I'm speaking through here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So she says to me, because we have our daddy-daughter day, Dad, you're doing a talk tonight on parenting. I said, I is. And then she said, oh, can I ask you some questions about conscious parenting? I said, sure. So I put down the questions she asked. I'm going to pose the questions to you, and you tell me how you would respond to that, okay? And remember, there's no right or wrong answers. If there is, I'll point it out. And then you stand up and introduce yourself on camera, okay? So pay attention, please. This is the first question she asked me. Dad, can spanking a child be good discipline? I was thinking for a moment there, and I thought to myself, I did not say anything. I do not answer questions. It doesn't matter what question she asked me. I thought about that because it really made me reflect on that. My immediate response was no, but I did not say that. Because I am a contrite fallibilist, meaning I don't know what the truth is, and I do not assume to know. I have opinions. It doesn't mean what I speak is true or truth, right? So let me ask you this question. I thought, I'm going to ask the parents tonight this question. Maybe there is a God amongst us who has the answer to the universe. Anyway, so let me ask you this question, and then I'll tell you how I would respond. I did not respond to my child. Like I said, I do not answer her questions. But I have her to think about her questions, and she ends up answering it herself. So I ask you, can spanking a child be good discipline? Who wants to give me the wrong answer first? Oh, I shouldn't have prompted. Who wants to give me a right answer? You were going to say something.
What is good discipline?
Oh, you're really thinking. What does that even mean? As a matter of fact, that was part of my process as well. What is good discipline? Because in my world, there's no such thing as good or bad. So I could not answer that question. It was a trap for me as a contrite fallibilist. The world doesn't work that way, good or bad. It does in the context of dualistic thinking or black and white thinking, right? But we're more complex than that. It's not that simple, right? Okay? So, great response. What is good discipline? So as it turned out, I said, what do you mean? To her. That's how you respond. That response right there came from a place of consciousness. You did not answer that question for her. Okay? You want to be curious about why she asked that question. So you engage in that kind of inquiry. That's right. What is good discipline? Then I asked her, what did you mean by spanking? She's never been spanked before in her entire life. So I cannot assume I know what she means by that. And I never answer her question, but I will ask questions that pertain to her questions. Yeah. What do you mean by spanking? And she says, well, some parents, my friends tell me they get spanked in the butt. I said, oh, I see what you mean. Okay? Anybody else want to respond to this question? Can spanking a child be good discipline? Oh, how about this? What was your first immediate response? Did I get a hell's yeah? Yeah, did anyone think that? Come on. Paul, raise your hand. I know Paul too well.
So I grew up in a household where spanking was a ritual. It was a ritual of humiliation.
Ooh.
And not wanting to ever have my child feel like that, we never spanked with a ritual of humiliation. There was a time or two as a toddler when she was about to stick her finger in an electrical outlet or do something that would be harmful and that she was not paying attention, or she might have gotten a swat to get her attention. But it was not the ritual of domination.
You discern the difference. Now, just for clarification, you swat her in the butt or the face?
In the butt.
Okay. Just making clear. All right.
But picking her up and removing her from the situation would also be equally as effective. Just sometimes you can't get there fast enough.
So you touch on something I was going to address, the consequences of spanking itself. Do you know what the studies show?
Makes kids violent.
A lot more anxiety and depression and
Aggression, yeah. Aggression? Yeah. How did you know that? Or were you just
my sisters and I have talked about it,
Oh.
about our childhood and our issues now, I guess.
Oh.
Affecting family
Yes.
style, I guess.
Come on, most of us got spanked, right? It's okay. So, or some degree of physical, corporal punishment, right? Yeah. So be very cautious. It's clear. Now, if you were to bring your child to me and spanking worked, you know what? That's all I need is a paddle in my office. I'll do it for you. Yeah, and then that child will be fixed, right? It's not that easy.
No.
Yeah, it's not easy. And the horror that it creates, all right, psychically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, relationally, socially, environmentally, yeah, perceptually. There are many forms of intelligence, right? And we can talk about that another time. So, anyone else want to respond to that question? Can spanking a child be good discipline? Okay. So all I did was just, as I said, inquire. What did you think? Or what do you think? And she said, no, I don't think so. Although I've never been spanked. But I can't imagine scaring a child to behave good makes them be good. So that's what she said, okay? So let's move on. Then her next question was, now what is the best way to compliment your child? Answer to that question? Does anyone have an answer to that? She asked me, what is the best way to compliment your child? Yeah, so what do you think I did? Or what did you think, how did I respond? How did I react? Someone to sit here next to me? Let's talk about anxiety, right? I get nervous. I get nervous around. You're so intimidating. Okay, so how do you think I responded to that question? My child asked me about an hour ago, what is the best way to compliment your child? My response was, as a conscious parent, I said, yeah, right. I'm curious. Teach me the way of the wise. What is the best way to compliment a child? And she said, you don't. I said, well, what do you mean? Do you remember, and I told you this story last week, I believe, when I was younger, I had a purple dress on. And then I went to you and I twirled and I asked you, don't you think this is beautiful, Dad? And you did not compliment me. I cannot believe she believed it. Didn't I just share the story last week?
Yeah, at the retreat.
Oh, that's
She
right.
was with us.
Yeah.
About conscious parenting.
It was in the first series.
And it was last year too,
Yeah,
but
first series,
that's
yeah.
not
So she says you don't. Says that, so then, if you don't compliment a child, which most of us do, no, go a step further. All of us have, one way or the other, right? That's so beautiful. Oh, that's gorgeous. You're so smart. You're like the most talented person in this room. You know, whatever you say, right? So that's all compliments. So that's how she says you don't. And this is what she said that followed. Just seeing them would be enough. When I asked her, how do you? She said, just seeing them will be just enough. And she continues, let them know you recognize them. So I wrote verbatim what she said. Let them know that you recognize them, and that will be your biggest compliment. Okay? So I said before, it's not needed. The less verbose you are, the more opportunity they will be. But there's a rule that applies to teaching kids the right way, and you do so by setting an example, right? How many times must we say that and talk about that before we recognize that? Yeah? All right. Be humble. Be humble. Okay? It's okay. You can give yourself permission to let go of control. Or you can give yourself permission to let go that you know more than your kids. It doesn't have to be a competition. Yeah? You win. You know more. Okay, so now you can set that aside. And then just let your child be child. You don't need to teach them anymore. Okay? So let them know you recognize them, and that will be the biggest compliment you can offer. Okay? And besides that, she says, kids have a little fire in their hearts, and it flows until it runs out. And I asked her, runs out? It says, yes, sometimes parents blow out the flame. Okay. Here's another question she asked me. Again, I did not answer these questions, and nor do I respond. We were having peace talks. Do you remember peace talks, what the rules were? 90% of the time, what's happening? You did this, yes. Listening. I'm listening, yes. Who said that? Okay. You're my only A student. Okay. So, yes, listening. That's right. Hey, you're getting judged, right? Harsh. The rest of you Fs. Okay, here we go. That's right, listening. So, what about the other 10%?
Question.
Yeah, 90% of that, when you respond, is in the form of a question or validation. Okay, here we go. Here's a question for you. She continues. Can two opposite parents be good together? That was interesting to me. You know what immediately came to my head? I did not respond to this question. I in turn asked her, can they? The reason why this question was intriguing to me is because she knows two parents, the one that she has lived with the past 13 years, who are completely, entirely opposite in terms of personality. Have you met my wife? You will know her when she walks into this room. She's Brazilian, if that says anything to you, because we all have stereotypes, right? She's lively. Latina, right? Yay! Let's party! Clear the table. I'm jumping on. Okay. What do you think I do when I come to a party? This is my chair.
Hold your hands.
Yeah, exactly. In the corner. Yeah. Like Yoda. Yeah. Crazy is that one. Because I always judge. We all always judge, and that's okay. We can make fun of each other, right? It's not what you do that is the problem, right? I said last time, it's what you do after what you had done. So sometimes we do things to kids that are not the best, but that's okay. We're human, right? Conscious parenting is human parenting. It's also humble parenting. Keep that in mind, right? So that's okay. So what if you spit between your child's eyes, right? But it's what you do afterwards, after you spit. Metaphorically speaking, I hope. I'm watching you carefully. Cute little daughter. Don't ever do that. Okay. So, listen. It's what you do after you spit between the eyes. It's okay to get down on that level and with your hands of compassion, wipe that off. And the two most important words you can say, I am freaking sorry. Two. Oh, four? Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. So, it's okay. It's okay. We all make mistakes. I still do. My daughter still reminds me, and I teach. Still reminds me, Dada, your tone. Mindful tone, please. All right. Go back to the question. Can two opposite parents be good together? How would you respond to that?
Opposite attract.
Exactly. Yes.
Still believe that 42?
Answer out loud, please. Or keep your thoughts to yourself. Okay. Either way. Okay. Yes. Isn't it funny how opposites attract? Studies show that actually consists of most relationships because they balance each other out only if they're conscious. If the couple is conscious, right? Because it could get ugly if it is not. As you know, given the statistics, 50%, right? All right. Can two opposite parents be good together? I asked her, can they? And she said, I think they can balance each other out, like you and mom. I was like, ooh, and there we have it. What do you mean? Like me and mom. And says, well, mom got you out of your shyness and you calm her down. I said, ooh, tell me more. Here's a question I'll throw out to you. You can answer freely if you want, although you have not been doing it so. But do you teach parents to listen? Whoa, where does that came from, right? I'm thinking to myself, all these things that kids manifest and express came from something they have observed. Do you believe that? Yeah. So, do you teach parents to listen? So here's where I get concerned. Is she talking about me? Because you're not listening too well, Dad, and you're teaching. She said that before. You teach mindfulness, but yet you forget to be mindful. When your child says that, which he has said to me on numerous occasions, how should I respond?
Ask her to go on, like explain it to you.
Yes. Please. More.
Mindfulness isn't a mastery, it's a practice.
I used that word today, mastery. There's no such thing as a master in mindful parenting. Yeah. But what makes a parent masterful? A conscious parent masterful. Yay! Yeah. It's a try and the try and the try. They never get perfect. They never reach that state of enlightenment. And if they did, it's called the enlightenment delusion. Okay? There's such a thing, by the way, but that does not pertain to parenting. But I'm going to use it as it pertains to parenting. So, because you all have this so-called enlightenment delusion, keep in mind you have to be cautious that when you speak, you may be unintentionally or unwittingly deluding them. And that's part reason why I do not provide advice to my child. This is the only context in which I provide advice, and on Fridays when I meet with Mary and Paul and we have these pseudo-intellectual discussions, that makes us feel good about ourselves. What's so funny? Yes.
I get it, as I did last week. But I feel like, isn't it a part of the parents, and maybe as a father, how I see it, to teach your kids certain things, whether it be morals, values, beliefs, / how to cook, how to clean, family history.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a part of being in a social group of people as the learning takes place with one another.
Okay. I see. Yes, there are several ways to teach. What I'm saying, be cautious in the manner in which you teach. It's always important as a conscious parent to recognize intention. If cultural values are important to you, to the extent where you're shaming and guilting the child in your desire to teach your children, then it becomes shaming and guilting. It no longer becomes teaching. But yes, morals and values and ethics, very important dimensions of personality, key and in the role of cultivating evolutionary process that taps into what we call humanity. So the greater the values or virtues that you're referring to, and you're giving me goosebumps because if you can teach and teach through your parenting, especially by example, these moral values and ethics, like compassion or gratitude or humility or resilience or consciousness or awareness, they're one step closer to humanity. And you're cultivating what's referred to as humanity intelligence. What we're lacking nowadays, right? We have forgotten that other people are human beings. We have objectified left and right and black and white and so on and so on and so on, and continues to do so. That kind of the lack of epistemic awareness or consciousness and ignorance here means unaware of their own processes is terrifying to me because it is replete with madness, rage, anger, destruction, which leads to what? Destruction. And so arrogance as a virtue and selfishness as a virtue is something we very much adore here. Selfies? Everybody get in. Right? That's the things we do. Selfishness as a virtue. Arrogance as a virtue. Aggression as a virtue. Have replaced to some degree. Unwittingly, they don't wake up first thing in the morning and say, today I will be aggressive. Yes. So if then they are not consciously doing that, hence the unconscious. Yes.
Can I touch on
They don't know.
I love this. I'll see you next week. We're done. I mean, you got it. You got it. Beautifully said, yes. There are things you can teach. Like, guess what? Jasmine wanted for me to teach her how to drive last weekend. No, not this past weekend, the weekend before. I said, sure, why not? Yeah, so I see. But there are certain things that they can develop on their own that doesn't reside within their head, your voice. Okay, so they cannot be authentic when they are you. Yeah, and sometimes we need to pass down the legacy and so on, because what it is essentially we're fear of dying. So it continues to live past the legacy, and it justifies why we do the things we do sometimes, but that's another class. Anyways, yeah. So, what if you could offer that to your child every time with the greatest intention and consciousness, with the awareness that it will be the last time that you will ever hug your child again. And to some degree, or rather a great degree, you are hugging your child for the very last time again. Your child, what, is growing, right? Never the same. The moment we are born is the moment we die, right? So, here's my point here, okay? How you demonstrate behavior will reflect your attitude, because your attitude will be manifested in every act you commit, and whatever that attitude is. If virtues are important to you, like, what is the most important virtue for you? You have an important virtue?
I guess I'm not quite sure what virtues are different for different people, or are they pretty?
Yeah. For you, what is important? Is it compassion? Is it humility? Is it sensitivity? Is it community? Is it empathy? Is it listening?
Say empathy.
Empathy. How about for you? You're still thinking?
I would say almost like love.
Love? Why love?
Because I feel like that encompasses everything.
Oh.
It encompasses empathy, it encompasses care, joy, sadness.
Yes. Yes. I see. There's a whole psychology of love we can get into, but I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Yeah. So what you do as a parent is every engagement that you can encounter reflects that. And everything you do without your child, but your child's around and observes, reflects that. Whether it's hugging your child, utter and complete love, sentient love. There's something called sentient love. It's the equivalent of what you refer to here in the West as unconditional love. So something as I said, profound as hugging your child, or something as simple as just drinking a cup of water. Your children will see that, because you know they're always observing, they're always sensing, they're always picking up things. So anything and everything you do will become part of their DNA. So consciousness matters. Consciousness matters. Thank you. I appreciate
So
that.
intention, basically, kind of with what you were just saying, intentional with all of those things. How do you talk to them and interact with them? Is that
I love that intention with the capital I. As I said before, it's tricky to figure out what our intentions are, because with the best intentions, we think we have the right intentions. Like a lot of parents think, well, it's my job to teach my kid respect. Who believes that, by the way? Okay, don't raise your hand, raise your finger. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I suppose too, like, how do you define respect? And like, there's a lot of layers there. So, I mean, you've given the example of how you don't enter Jasmine's room unless you've knocked and asked for permission. You're teaching respect through that act. And right, she won't come into your room unless she's asked, right? She just won't walk in. So she's getting those lessons.
Yes, I never taught my child not to come into my room. When she was 2 years old, that's when I started asking her if it was okay that I go into your room. I need to get the laundry. And she said, yeah, Dada. Because 2 years old, you can do whatever. Can I set your hair on fire? Yeah, Dada. So, but you start there. And to this day, she will not enter my room or Vivian and I's room without asking for permission. I was at work, and she needed her kid ibuprofen. It was in Mom's drawer in our room. She called me while I was in session. I could not answer. It was after I was done. I called her back and said, Dada, I need my ibuprofen, but it is in Mom's room. May I enter? I said, yes, you may. I never told her. I never asked her. 2 months ago, she was at home. We were at work. She calls me. Couldn't answer. I called her back as soon as I could. She says, Dada, I just had lunch. May I have a popsicle? Yes, you may. She doesn't need to ask. I never had. So I demonstrated first. How I did that was after dinner one time, she was 2 years old. I said, we are done eating dinner. Jasmine, should I get a popsicle for myself? And she said, yeah, Dada, you can have a popsicle. I said, thank you. That's how I did it. That's conscious parenting. You see how easy that is? Like this. No effort.
I have a question. In your opinion, if you were to start that a little bit later, like, say my daughter's age, 8.
I know you're just saying that.
Yeah.
Choices.
Yeah, and so, because...
That changes the whole landscape of the child's psychology, because if had you started earlier, it would have been easier. All right. I jest. It's not that easy. Choices. Now you have to revert to choices. The power and the psychology of choice. Right before bedtime, a child comes. Oh, no. I'll give you a real life instance. So, at our workplace, we have a candy jar in the office up front where clients can come in, right? And so this kid I was seeing, as I walked out to get him to come into my office, grabs a freaking handful of candy bar like this, and the jar is this small. So you give you an idea. Just, and I stopped that person there. He's 10. Okay, you have a choice. You can have one piece of candy and put everything back, or you can have no candy. He goes, yeah, one piece of candy. Yeah, awesome. You put it back. Yeah. So it has to be choice that way. Not just that, the power of choice. Remember, and you have to use the word choice, right? Choice is something that can be a mantra in their head. Okay, I can choose to act like this, but there will be consequences, right? So they have to understand that, but it just isn't that. If you have kids that you're kind of starting late, the secret to that, the ingredient of conscious parenting is you spend as much time as you can with them playing. What did we say about playing last week?
Their language.
What did you? I'm sorry, Mary?
It's their language.
It is their language, exactly right. You got to speak the language. And why on earth Am I playing with my child when I need to discipline my child right now? Because it is in the play where discipline arises. And discipline here I'm referring to as conscious discipline, discipline of mind. Every child, I think, to some extent, if not every, most children to some extent need order and organization because they are in disorder and disorganized. Sometimes it manifests in the form of rage, right? And other times it's non-compliance, simple non-compliance, right? So, you're okay with that now, you're a conscious parent. Remember what I said last time? The louder the child rages, the more you welcome. As a matter of fact, you're like, louder, please. We're in the middle of Walmart. Louder. And then the key is what you do. Is what you do in the moment. Dignified repose. In your action and your poise and your calm and equanimity amidst the chaos, you show the child by demonstration, or rather by example, that there is an organization. There is an order. You represent that order without even having to say anything. If you want to say something, you can plop on the floor as your child's doing the angels, screaming in the middle of Walmart, and remind your child that you're here for them. Yes?
I think it's so important when you say dignified repose that it be genuine, that we have our own practice that we embody for the sake of not only our own well-being but for theirs. Because I think kids, children, even adults, they see right through that. You know, we can look down at them and, Mommy's calm, you know, or it's,
Oh.
they're so in tune. And I'm thinking of, say there's a loss, you know, someone passes away in the family, and the children will look to their parents to see if there's devastation, and the parents are, it's okay, you know, I'm strong. So there's just this disingenuousness that we can portray a lot that can be very confusing to kids. It's important that it's genuine.
Yeah. Two things I thought about when you were saying that. The practice itself, or, you know, we're not perfect, and conscious parenting requires conscious practicing. And yeah, the other thing was I completely forgot. Got that on camera? Okay, but dignified repose, yeah, so that's why I stated that way, dignified repose. I would assume it had to be genuine for it to be effective. I've taught myself that because I work with kids, I've been working with kids for 18 years of a variety of sorts, but taught myself through the years to find equanimity in the flow of madness when my kids are the kids in the office are jumping on my couch or moving around my furniture, just riding the wave of that phenomenal craziness in a way where my response is in return is pure compassion. That's my practice. It's always been. And love. Love.
Can you explain how you have compassion when somebody is jumping all over your furniture?
It's a shift in perspective. So the jumping on furniture is an
or whatever it might be.
I'll use what you're saying. It's just exploration and experimentation and play. So it's shift in perspective, and that's how I began. So when I was trained by a child psychologist, she helped me shift my thinking about how the world of the child and how it works. So I used to think about disobedient behaviors or noncompliance as disobedient behaviors, or impulsive behaviors as disobedient behaviors, or dysregulated behaviors as disobedient behaviors. As it turns out, there's no such thing as disobedient behaviors. There's all those things I just mentioned. Dysregulation, impulsivity, right? Behavioral upheaval, yeah. Emotional turmoil, psychological madness. See, there's always an explanation, right? Always.
So Glenn and I were talking about this after your last session.
Mhm.
I was kind of giving him the cliff notes. And when our daughter was younger and she would tantrum, she would often become very violent towards us. And we know that his niece and nephew used to exhibit similar behaviors towards his sister and brother.
Mm.
How would you guide a parent to handle those situations? It doesn't happen now. I mean, at the time,
Mhm.
we would often, and we talked about this too, put her in a room and let her just go nuts in a room. She'd have a safe place that was contained,
Mm.
you know.
It's
until
typical.
She was
Yeah.
to where we knew she wouldn't try to hurt us.
Mm-hmm. So you probably had to, in some way, did you at some point have to block the door? Because some kids try to get out.
Yeah, we flipped the lock around.
You flip the rock around? Okay. What is my concern with something like that? It's not just you. I've dealt with this before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, what you will see is a burst of emotional upheaval, and that's the isolation. Why is that scary? No, not just a child, even for us.
A lone kid is a dead kid in the wild.
Hmm.
Because that's true with most social animals.
Yeah.
I would think too, if they're looking for the order, they don't know it necessarily. They're looking for the stability, they're looking for the security, and now all of that is gone. And I'll say I put my oldest in a room, let her rich too, so I'm like right in there with you.
Yeah.
But looking at it now, I can see where that's a cry for co-regulation. And I didn't at that time have the tools to provide it.
Well, and the parenting skill that I grew up with
Oh,
was,
yeah.
kid hits
Yeah.
you beat
Yeah.
the shit out of the kid.
Yeah, exactly, and that's not
Yeah.
okay.
And that's
Yeah,
not
no,
okay.
that's not
We
the
know that.
co-regulating that
Yeah.
either, but.
Yeah.
Actually, for
I
me,
like
it
it.
could be very triggering, and a lot of putting her in a room was to protect her from my own dysregulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
So my question in like those scenarios, then you're not supposed to, you're supposed to just listen and not, like, are there never any times where you're trying, like, cause I feel like our son, he gets really mad easily, like, I try to talk it out with him, but you're saying, like, you shouldn't, if he's just angry, like, I try to, you know, should I not try to talk to him?
How old is your son?
Well, he's 9 now.
Nine. And what form of anger are you talking about when you say anger?
Just really easily frustrated. I mean, I actually feel like I was that way when I was a kid, but I didn't get over it. Like, I never had the tools to deal with it
Hmm.
way later, so I don't, but I've tried to like talk, like, why are you, asking questions, but you're saying that you shouldn't be talking, but if they're to that point, how do you get them to, I guess what,
How do you bring order to that?
well, bringing order without,
Help and regulate.
or just, yeah, let them, you're saying lean into their emotions, right? Like,
Mhm.
let them be angry, which is fine,
Mm-hmm.
but
I feel like the key there for me when I'm dealing with those kinds of situations, I always handle it so much better when I bring the focus back to myself and away from my child, because for me it is also very triggering for me, because she yells hurtful things at me, and it's very triggering for me as well. And so I handle those situations so much better when I bring it back and I meditate, like focus in on where that hurt is coming from in myself, and comfort that area in myself and discipline my own mind.
Getting
And then
deep.
I'm more able to hold a space for
Mm.
her, because that space is now there, because I'm not fighting against myself as well as my child.
You're getting.
yeah, I understand that, like, I'm not even upset when he's mad, I'm
Mhm.
more just like trying to get him to be, usually anger is from a different emotion, I believe, and it's
Fear,
usually
yeah.
more out of hurt or something,
Yeah.
how to get him to realize where that's coming from, or I don't know.
Yeah, anger is fear in disguise. Depression is fear in disguise. Envy is fear in disguise. Is rooted in that. And unfortunately, that runs our psychic system, all of us. You remember the amygdala? There it is, back here, right? It activates fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, you have to stay present. There's no way around it. But the way you stay present is to let the child know when you're ready, you'll be here. But you can't speak because there's no way the child's recognizing that. Good luck trying to calm a raged child because the primitive part of the brain is functioning. It takes time to go from here to there to here. So the presence that you allow, but the message is very clear when you get to that, at some point, to that rage or frustration and anger. I just wanted to let you know beforehand that I will be present for you as much as I can be present for you, because I don't know what else to do at that point. And then when you're ready, come to me and let me know. You can show me in many forms: a hug, eye contact, a touch, a word. I will not know until you are ready to let me know. But you're not saying that during, I'm saying beforehand. That's the message the two. One, it's okay to jump on the furniture, it's okay to rage, because that's all forms of communication. It is primitive form of communication. Anger is an unsophisticated coping strategy to protect against fear. So that's what anger is. So they're forms of communication. That's all that is. It's like you engaging with me, and we all engage in that, right? We all regressed. Has anyone here never gotten mad? Jesus, are you here? Jesus. Yeah. He did, didn't he? There will be hell, you know, if you mess with Jesus. All right. So anyway, yeah, I've had that. I used to work at a psych ward. This is back in Hazard, Kentucky.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Bless me. It was such a good experience. I had a client where we had to restrain the client because he was raging. And so a couple big men came in and got one side of him, and I tried to get the leg, and he spat and it just over my face. It was fantastic. He was trying to communicate with me. He was afraid. It didn't help that these two big men came and restrained him, right? He became more rageful. But it was awesome. So I learned that it's not about the spit in my mouth. It is just, that's just an expression that is really an expression indicating to me there's something much more deep. So when a child, and I've had children throw toys out of anger across my office, I don't care about it. I don't go pick up the toys. You know what you did. No. I said, I turned over to that child. I'm thinking about this child. And said, was it something that I said that may have triggered that? Because it has nothing to do with the toy, right? So sometimes we focus on the wrong thing. It's the parent delusion and the parent bias, and all of that plays a role that prevents us from being conscious. But that's okay. We're all unconscious. Oh,
Yeah, we got you on a tangent.
so that's okay. So we've come to the end here. We have, I believe, one more class next week. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your service.
One thing real quick. I was curious about your experience with talking with your son. In my sense, going through this and working with a lot of kids and trying these things out, I'm wondering how much of it is them just trying to process. They may not want answers, right? Like, but when when you have an upset kid who's just talking, right? My sense anymore is they don't even want me to respond. They just want the soundboard or something to actually process it out loud.
Yeah.
And through that, it seems like they actually come to a conclusion. I don't know, is that...
That's exactly why you're just sitting.
Yeah.
And the response in terms of presence is to let them know that you're there, that you can be there for them despite what's going on here. You're right, we're echo chambers to their emotional distress and pain and suffering. It will reflect back to them. And what they see is, as I refer to as an organization within us, they may not register at the time, but those things accumulate. They understand what you are. I was just thinking, one of the other things that my daughter said tonight during dinner was, you calm mom down. So she must have, I didn't say I calm her down, she must have recognized to some degree that I am the order in the room. That's right. That's right. Fed my, yes, just be humble.
Like, oh no.
Be humble. That ego just rears its ugly head. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.